Mr. Hanks, I would like to show you a more accurate portrayal of a Trump supporter. And feel free to take notes. 1 second. Pretty good, right? I didn't even have to go to acting school for that. Anyway, Mr. Hanks, on behalf of all of the people that you so ignorantly insulted last night, you. Also,
Yeah, F you, Tom Hanks. You creepshow. All these Hollywood elites. Nobody should be listening to these people for their political advice. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. Fully packed video for you guys today. As usual, the timestamps are everywhere in the video. We got Scott Jennings and Kevin O'Leary torching a panel of CNN low IQ Democrats. MArgrett Brennan's mishap of saying that the Holocaust was caused by free speech doesn't seem to be going away, as she keeps getting torched here by conservatives. We got Tom Homan on his AOC should be in jail tour. Karoline Leavitt goes off on the fake news. We find out that Mark Zuckerberg is funding programs to help migrants. Trevor Noah wants to go back to a time of segregation. And Piers Morgan's panel debate COVID-19. Fully packed. Timestamps are there. Let's start it off though with a funny video of John Oliver panicking because we on the right are getting exactly what we voted for. John, you tool. Let's go.
I think the issue is they're not whacking enough. There's this concept in private equity when you get a bankrupt company and you go in there, you cut 20% more than your initial read. And then you find like a pool of mercury, the organization gels back together again. Always cut deeper, harder when there's fat and waste. The FAA, it's not the people. The code is cobalt. It's from the 60s. It needs CapEx put into it for the technology to be upgraded to make it safer. Fat like a chicken. All of these agencies are like big fat chickens dripping over barbecues of fat. This is the best barbecue I've ever seen, but I don't think it's happening fast enough. They're not cutting enough. Keep slashing, keep hacking while you have a 24-month mandate before the midterms. Cut, more cutting. Believe me, it's going to work out just great. Everybody should be happy about this.
Even people with the nuclear codes, cut them too?
Cut everything. Because if you don't see what they're doing and they can't show you that they're adding value, you whack.
But it's clear know that the polling is a little bit mixed. There are people
Really?
who, yes.
So far, so good.
Well,
people are loving this. The first time ever.
There
the first time ever you're asking government to actually say, what do you do with my money?
There are 45,000 employees at the FAA. We're talking about fewer than 400 people, and he says 0 air traffic controllers and critical safety personnel were let go. So if that's true, I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I do like the idea of keeping the people who are in the direct chain of command of safety and the air traffic control system and so on and so forth. But I have a hard time believing that there is a single government agency that doesn't have a bloat of administrative personnel that we could probably do without. And I think that's why a lot of voters are happy that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are finally going through the federal government and trying to take out some of this bureaucracy that we probably just don't need. So I'm reading to you what Sean Duffy says. He's the Secretary of the Transportation. I have no reason to doubt his numbers. I actually think it's okay if they run into a stumble here or there because the project is so massive. The need to cut is so massive. The government is so massive. It's inconceivable that you wouldn't make a mistake here or there. But I think that's acceptable if the greater goal is achieved, which is a smaller government, more efficient government. Trim the fat.
Even if someone dies, or even if someone, because
are you alleging that someone has died from this?
We don't know. I'm talking about when the rubber meets the road. I'm talking about, for example, Kansas City. 30,000 government employees might be laid off. It will destroy the economy of Kansas City. That's okay.
Why do you say that?
Because I'm reading what the individuals from Kansas City have been saying, that they're very concerned.
What do you think they're going to say when they're going to get whacked?
Of course they're going to say that, but my point is, do we think that's smart?
Kevin O'Leary and Scott Jennings don't miss. I fully agree with them. Keep cutting. If this was a private business, say for example you owned a business and Elon Musk and his team said, hey, for free we're going to go into your business, look through your software, find out where you're losing money, all the overspending, and just clean that up for you so you can be more efficient. This is what they're doing. Nobody in the world would say no to that. And keep in mind that if you voted for Trump, this is what you voted for. He said it the whole campaign trail. I'm going to slash government spending because this is how effectively you stop inflation. Inflation is caused by wasteful overspending by the government, and they're stopping it. Keep going. Now let's get to Tom Homan, who is on AOC is a dummy tour and considering charging her and put her in jail. I hope he does. Let's go.
That up to DOJ. What I find disturbing is that any member of Congress wants to educate people how they evade law enforcement. You can claim you're educating those constitutional rights. Okay, you can keep that claim. But what she in fact is doing is telling people don't open your door, hide in your home, don't talk to ICE. We're talking about people who are in the country illegally, committed a crime, they're a public safety threat, they've been convicted of serious crime, and they've been ordered removed by a federal judge. So it's like AOC and others don't want ICE to enforce the laws that they enacted. She's a member of Congress. Let us enforce the laws you enacted. That's what we're supposed to do.
You can't go after her. Do you think others should?
No, I think I've asked DOJ, where's that line of impediment, of interference? Now, if someone stands in your way, prevents you from arresting somebody, put your hands on it, that's impediment. But what line is telling people to hide from ICE, not open the door? Where do you cross that line on impediment? So I've simply asked the Department of Justice, give us that line.
You have talked to them about this. That's what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Wow. We'll see where that goes. Tom Homan, I'm out of time.
First of all, I think she's, I won't go after her on
Tom, please do. Please do. Say what's on your mind. It's a holiday.
Look, she's the dumbest congresswoman ever elected to Congress, and she proves that every day. And look, bottom line is, I can't believe any member of Congress, Republican, Democrat, Independent, would want to educate criminal illegal aliens who are in the country illegally, been convicted of a violent crime, and have been ordered removed by an immigration judge after due process at great taxpayer expense. You got a congressman or congresswoman that does not want ICE to do the job that Congress has mandated them to do and funds them to do.
You know, a lot of Americans were having a really bad weekend because of these storms. So over 10 people passed away because of these storms that were hitting the eastern side of the United States, 9 alone dying in Kentucky, people drowning in their cars, tens of thousands without power. President Trump signed the emergency declaration, but he didn't, as far as I know, put out a statement. He didn't go out there. He's not going to meet the families, as far as I have heard. And you say, if Joe Biden had done this, if Joe Biden had shown up at the Daytona 500 while there were people living under emergency declarations and passing away in Georgia, a tree fell into a guy's house and ended up killing him.
Do you think this is a fair comparison?
Oh my God.
That
Why?
you're taking. This is not a hurricane event. You're talking about storm. So he needs to respond to every single death?
No.
Then he wouldn't be president.
Well, he needs to, I think, say something when the whole point was criticizing Joe Biden for absolutely everything that he ever did. I mean, you
he
said
never
that
did anything. Start with
really?
North Carolina.
That's not true. We've gone through it multiple times about how quickly he signed emergency declarations at this stand.
How about East Palestine?
How about you just say that maybe you shouldn't be driving around a race car track when this is going on?
No.
But that's like, you know what that is? You know what that is? That's like
saying
saying when there is news going on the 5, how dare you have one more thing? You know, when people go, oh my God, the economy's in and they're doing a pet segment. No, we also do 57 minutes of everything else. Trump does so many things in a day that him driving around in a car doesn't even amount to 1%.
Tom Homan is really AOC's nightmare ever since he came on the scene. Now we got another media dummy who somehow appeared out of nowhere a couple of years ago, MArgrett Brennan, another puppet from the left, another mouthpiece of the Democratic Party. And stuff like this is why CBS, MSNBC, CNN, why they're bleeding viewers and why they're bleeding money. Having your host go on there and claim that the Holocaust and the Nazis taking over Germany was because of free speech. Let's look at Clay Davis absolutely cooking her. Then I'm going to give you my thoughts. Let's get it.
That question is so embarrassing for CBS News to have aired that Margaret Brennan should be fired for stupidity and embarrassing CBS News. And in fact, they need to wipe everything clear because CBS News is clearly broken. This is a profound historical illiteracy. Nazis did not allow free speech. There was no robust marketplace of ideas when the SS were showing up on your door and dragging you out of your house if you did not show enough fondness, respect, and allegiance to Adolf Hitler. The idea that the reason the Holocaust happened was because too many people were able to say exactly what they believed in Germany is so broken from a historical basis in fact that question should get MArgrett Brennan fired. Because it's not only MArgrett Brennan, it's illustrative of the profoundly broken news culture at CBS. Because all these questions are planned. And they have a huge staff on a show like Face the Nation. And nobody raised their hand when they said, hey, we got the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, on. What should we ask him? Oh, we should ask him about J.D. Vance's speech advocating for free speech and point out that the reason the Holocaust occurred and the genocide of the Jews occurred during World War II was because there was too much free speech in Germany. No one called that out and said that's a moronic take and it's actually historically illiterate. No one said what is quite clear, and I want all of you to hear me say. The number one challenge to authoritarianism around the world throughout human history has been free speech. That is why the American Bill of Rights begins with free speech, because our founding fathers studied all of history and they understood that the way that dictatorships emerged was by the curtailing of free speech. It's not just that MArgrett Brennan's question was absurd and historically illiterate. It's that the exact opposite of what she said is what truly occurs. That is, the people who are in positions of power, dictators, authoritarians, one of the first things they do to grab as much power as they possibly can is to take away the marketplace of ideas, detract from free speech all over the country.
MArgrett Brennan is an absolute donkey. Actually, that's an insult to donkeys. As this post reads, when the Nazis came to power in 1933, the German Constitution guaranteed freedom of speech and freedom of press. Through the Korean Law, the Nazis abolished these civil rights and destroyed German democracy. Starting in 1934, it was illegal to criticize the Nazi government. Even telling a joke about Hitler was considered treachery. People in Nazi Germany could not say or write whatever they wanted. The Nazis were anti-free speech. The Nazis would be proud of what's going on in Germany right now, except it's going on to the opposite people that they would want it to happen to. And this is why nobody believes the mainstream media. Let's get to Karoline Leavitt torching the fake news media. This girl is amazing and she's had enough. Let's check it out.
I've been fighting fake news reporters all day long here in the Washington, D.C. swamp who are trying to fearmonger the American people into believing that this administration is going after their hard-earned tax dollars and their hard-earned Social Security checks. So I want to set the record straight on your show tonight, Sean, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. President Trump has directed Elon Musk and the Doge team to identify fraud at the Social Security Administration. They haven't dug into the books yet, but they suspect that there are tens of millions of deceased people who are receiving fraudulent Social Security payments. And so their goal in going into the Social Security Administration is to identify three things. Number one, to identify duplicate payments and to end them. Number two, to identify payments that are going to deceased people who are no longer living and should no longer be receiving that money. And number three, to protect the integrity of this system for hardworking Americans who have been paying into it their entire lives. So rest assured to all of the people watching your show tonight, if you paid into the system honestly, you will continue to receive your Social Security checks. Do not buy into the lies from the legacy fake news media who are trying to fear you and scare you into believing otherwise. This is what we've seen them do about President Trump for years with every promise that he has made. And he's going in there to protect your hard-earned money. That is the ultimate goal.
Now you're going to rescue astronauts. And now, and again, you do all of this. I would think liberals would love the fact that you have the biggest electric vehicle company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be adored by the left, you know.
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days.
He killed that, huh?
I mean, less so.
I really didn't.
Well, I mean, this whole sort of like, you know, they call it like Trump derangement syndrome. And I don't, you don't realize how real this is until like you can't reason with people. So like I was at a friend's birthday party in LA, just a birthday dinner, and it was like a nice, quiet dinner, and everyone was behaving normally. And then I happened to mention, this is before the election, like a month or two before, I happened to mention the president's name. And it was like they got shot with a dart in the jugular that contained like methamphetamine and rabies, okay? And they're like, wow! And I'm like, what is wrong? Like, guys, like, you can't have like a normal conversation. Yeah. And it's like, it's like that they become completely irrational.
Oh, to all those liberals out there that are afraid that Elon Musk has their social security number or my social security number. When you're out there also, you're giving your social security to everybody. You go to the DMV, anywhere you go, you're always giving this out. But if you're a regular citizen in the city, but if you're a regular citizen in America, they're not looking into you. They're looking into the people that are making you afraid of this. They're looking into those corrupt Democrats. If you happen to find a lot of fraud somewhere and somebody tells you, hey, stop looking for the fraud, there's a good chance that that person was involved in the fraud. They found, I think it was 60 million extra Americans. By extra, I mean people that were deceased that were still counted as alive. 60 million is a big number. You want to talk about wasteful spending? 10 million plus people still getting social security checks? Absolutely unbelievable. Now let's get to Natalie Winters. She's on the Real America's Voice podcast with Brennan. And check out what she uncovered about that little lizard rat, Mark Zuckerberg. Let's get it.
Well, look, a snake can shed its skin and it's still a snake. So let this story be, frankly, a testament to, I think, the ascendant MAGA movement. They tried the first time, to sabotage and sort of subversively infiltrate our movement. Now they know they have to be supplicants and try to pretend to be MAGA. Mark Zuckerberg, probably the greatest offender in all that. People may recall last week we talked about how the New York Times came after a Twitter thread that I did showing how Mark Zuckerberg had been funneling money to groups that are tied to all the lawfare, the lawsuits that you've been talking about, particularly an organization called Protect Democracy. But the story gets even darker. You know, we like to bring the receipts here in the war room, as we always say. Well, after I broke that story, that thread, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative actually went back to their website, which used to list over 5,000 grants that they've doled out to overwhelmingly far-left organizations. But that's besides the point, at least for this second. But what's so interesting is that after I put that thread out, they actually reversed their website, and now they only list 680 grants, saying that they're only doing post-2024 grants. Conveniently, everything they did to rig the 2020 election is now gone. But I also want to push back on this idea that Mark Zuckerberg could have never funded a group that's tied to ongoing and active Trump resistance, because I actually, donor-advised funds aside, the Silicon Valley Community Foundation aside, Forward US, which was founded by Mark Zuckerberg in 2013, in addition to the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, I've actually identified over a dozen organizations that have been funded by them that are actively involved in some form of resistance against President Trump, whether that be lawsuits, lobbying, protests, mass demonstration, phone banking, phone calls, you name it. Just to give you some examples, one of the group, it's called CASA, is actively suing President Trump over his birthright citizenship executive order. They also maintain a hotline where people can dox ICE raids and ICE agents. Make the Road New York has a whole deportation defense manual. They instruct illegal aliens how to avoid deportation, and they're suing President Trump over his deportation agenda. Vote Vets Action has received money from Zuckerberg. They actively oppose the Hegseth confirmation. They're having all their deranged followers pile in with lawsuits, petitions, you name it. You have this Center for American Progress, the sort of hotbed of Obama administration alums that are putting out petition after petition, lawsuit after lawsuit. They're also part of that Democracy Forward coalition, which is sort of the tip of the spear of all of the lawsuits against President Trump. And there's some really, really extremely radical open borders advocacy groups like the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, which smeared, believe it or not, the Laken Riley Act as racist and a pipeline to mass detention and deportation. And my favorite, Common Justice, a far-left group, is actively tweeting as we speak about how they're going to resist Trump and nothing will make them back down. So, Mark Zuckerberg, I know you're so focused on criminal justice. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hang on.
Zuckerberg is a little rat, and we've always known he was a little rat. This little, I'm pro-free speech tour, try to buddy-buddy with Trump, This is a guy who gave the FBI and the CIA a backdoor into Facebook to spy on you. This is a guy who was responsible for pretty much swaying an election. This is a guy who knowingly hid the Hunter Biden laptop from everybody, and if you commented on it, called it misinformation. This is a guy that during the COVID era, if you said anything about something like ivermectin or the inefficacy of the jab, you were banned off the platform. This is that guy. And he can come out and he can say, oh, it's because of the systems that we had in place. BS. You are that guy. And now, because the powers have changed, he's trying to cozy up to Trump. If Kamala would have won the election, you would not hear any of this stuff coming from him. Now let's get to Trevor Noah. Campaigning for segregation to come back? Ridiculous. This absolutely. I have no words. Let's get it.
I found myself wondering, and this applies to America, and then maybe it'll go to other places in a different way because Finland ties in. Do you think that integration was the right move? Like, and now I'm separating two things, because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there was segregation, and I go, yeah, no, I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of those, the negative things away, because I'll put myself out personally and say, I think whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we are talking about and I mean anything that does not fit into a category, I think the part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
It's very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it. That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating with other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. This person. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe, on the other side of, what America, of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I don't think it's actually that controversial when, if you understand that segregation and integration weren't the only options. Like those are, within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that?
Imagine if a white person said that, oh yeah, we should go back to segregation. Imagine that. White person goes on a podcast, says, yeah, we should have like white-only dormitories and just go back to being with our people. Imagine the outrage. Not only that, but he's 100% wrong here. Okay, this is not what you want. This is not what America is. This is not what our values are. This is the problem with the left because they look at everything through the lens of race and gender. Okay, this is critical race theory. This is what critical race theory does to people. He's looking at Finnish people and saying, oh, they're all Finnish because they're all white. He's American. This is why we have to get rid of the hyphenated words, African American, Spanish American, Latin American, Ukrainian American, Chinese American. You're American. Once you get your citizenship, you're American. But these leftoids are so far down their critical race theory rabbit hole that every person in the world is racist and racist is into everything. And like he talks about, oh, the people that can't get a bank loan. Are you kidding me? In 2025, if you're a black person and you qualify, you're going to get the bank loan. You think the banker doesn't want to get money? You think they're not there to get paid, especially in these times, the way inflation is? Give me a break. Give me a break. Trevor Noah is a ridiculous human being. This is the same guy who defended Jussie Smollett. Now, let's get to 2025's version of the Jerry Springer Show. And look, I don't say that derogatively. I love me some Jerry Springer. I'm here for the drama. This is a horrible way to have a conversation, but the entertainment value of what Piers Morgan is doing with Piers Morgan Uncensored is absolutely amazing. Let's get it. They're talking about COVID.
He made it very clear to every mom out there
that his children were immunized about childhood vaccines. Yeah. And what we've done wrong in public health is we didn't explain that COVID vaccines were nothing like the childhood vaccines, and that the childhood vaccines, like many of the diseases, you get it once, you don't get it again, and this is getting the children to have that disease without getting the deadly consequences. That is not what the COVID vaccine was designed to do. It wasn't designed to prevent against infection. And if you look at the vaccine hesitancy rates, they've doubled since COVID. So we have to start addressing these things. We can't just ignore them.
And Deborah, let me ask you, Deborah, I mean, given that you were the face of COVID from the Trump presidency at the time, do you share, this doctor who I was with, do you share the concerns about the longer term negative impact of some of the COVID vaccines?
The messenger RNA vaccine should have been rolled out for the people that were at risk for severe disease, because that's what the vaccine was developed for. But when we say that we're following the science and the data, we need to follow the science and the data. And the science and the data said people primarily over 65 or people with significant comorbidities were at risk for severe disease. Those are the individuals that should have been immunized first. And we should have put our science behind our immunization schedule and protected those most at risk. It went into young people in hospitals before it went into our elderly in nursing homes. That is not following the science and the data. So I am all for following the science and the data, but it shouldn't just be a statement, it should be a reality. And when we don't match what we do in public health to the science and the data, that is when we get into trouble. And that's when we start to fracture trust with the American people.
America is ridiculously over-medicated, particularly in the area of antidepressant drugs and anxiety drugs and so on. And Britain's going the same way.
No, I think it's great. I think it's great.
There are millions of young people.
You know what happens?
Hang on, Francesca. Hang on. Don't start shouting. Don't start shouting. Let me just put a question to you.
I bet money that Francesca's on drugs right now.
Francesca, let me put a question to you. Hang on, guys. Hang on. Can you both please hang on?
What happens is
Francesca,
you people's medications away.
Can't stop.
Let me make a point, please. Let me make my
Piers,
point.
Can I just
Let
say
them
for a minute,
respond.
I feel like I'm.
Everyone stop talking for a moment.
I'm on a panel.
Francesca, the point I'm making is America has 80% of the world painkiller consumption. 80%, right? You have millions of don't respond yet, millions of young people who are taking completely unnecessary, mind-bending drugs for things like anxiety, depression, often self-diagnosed. And guess what happens? You then have a load of weirdo, loner kids running around with their brains scrambled who commit mass shootings and stuff like that. There is a direct correlation. And we're going the same way in Britain. Young people are getting massively over-medicated. So I am actually in favor of RFK trying to pull America away from its addiction to mind-bending drugs.
I got to travel the country for many months during COVID, working at the state level and the community level. And what I witnessed was a lot of undiagnosed disease that could have been treated early, that then resulted in COVID deaths. And I saw a health system that had completely deteriorated in our rural areas. Our rural areas really don't have access to healthcare anymore. And the hub and spoke model that we had set up to get really sick people into the regional medical centers, they were overwhelmed themselves. So COVID pointed out a lot of our issues with chronic disease. Like with early HIV, when we started, we were only treating those with symptoms. Well, that was the tip of the iceberg. When we finally started working and finding asymptomatic individuals and getting them on treatment early before they had evidence of disease, they could thrive.
This is stats that you're looking at on the screen right now of the proof, the studies that have been done, that this jab is responsible for a lot of kidney failure and kidney damage. Like, we have the data on it now. I can't wait for RFK to start digging into this stuff. Speaking of RFK, let's get to a quick clip of Bill Gates here saying that he's going to meet with him next week, and also a clip of James Carvill. And whatever you feel about James Carvill, he's right here. And he's been right about a lot of stuff about the Democratic Party. They're a bunch of weak, woke people. And I'm not a James Carvill fan, but I'll give credit where credit is due. This is correct. Let's get to it.
I just want to make a disappointed observation. I think
these people, the most racist thing that I hear is when people say communities of color or people of color, because that assumes that everybody that is not white is the same, which is that, like, it's horribly, I think it's racist to say, well, Filipinos are the same as Hondurans, are the same as Nigerians, are the same as Indonesians is absurd. And they just keep using this language, and I think they're too naive to know how stupid it is. That's my own view.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, the data will show you that it's just not accurate, right? I mean, you look at where, you know, some of our Muslim American communities voted, where some of our South Asian American families voted. I mean, it doesn't work, at least in a state like Michigan. It's like a giant mixing bowl on political preferences. And if you think that you understand a community because of their country of origin, you haven't run in a swing state. I'll tell you that.
Well, okay, so
Kennedy Jr., Secretary of Health and Human Services, you know, in his book, he accused you and Dr. Tony Fauci of a historic coup d'etat against Western democracy, and all the things from vaccines to COVID to pandemic that you've been interested in. How is this going to affect your ability to do what you've been doing at the Gates Foundation?
Well, the Gates Foundation is going to work with the government. The NIH is the best medical research organization in the world, just like USAID is the best aid organization. And we've done a lot with them. The pipeline of innovations that I got President Trump enthused about, including things like eventually having a gene edit for an HIV cure. And so that'll be under Robert Kennedy. So, I'm going to go meet with him and explain, why.
Has he agreed to meet with you?
I think it's very, very likely that we'll get a meeting late this month. I hope so. I'll be reaching out to him.
Oh, I would love to be a fly on the wall in the RFK Bill Gates meeting, wouldn't you? We're going to end the video here with 2 clips from TikTok. One of a Latina that I hope this clip goes viral, and a poor MAGA supporting taxi driver that had to put up with a couple of woke leftoids. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. I'm going to leave you here. Have a great day. Have a great day, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.
You picking up people with that on, I don't think that's okay.
I've gotten a lot of compliments on my hat today.
Okay,
actually.
maybe for...
And that's fine, Some people like it, some people don't.
Whose side are you on?
I'm not on any side.
You is on somebody's side because you're my husband. What do you mean?
I'm not on nobody's side. I'm saying that some people like it, some people don't. And I'm just asking you to, just for the duration of our ride, just remove it. That's it, man. Look. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but... you're going to make her...
Because we are one. What do you mean you don't have a problem with it?
I do have a problem with it.
Okay.
And also, more than anything, I want to make her comfortable. And
Please, I'm your wife. Act like it.
Hey, as long as you guys give me a 5-star review, I'll remove the hat.
5-star review?
Oh, you're asking...
You should have knew better to pick us up with that, and you want a 5-star review?
Well,
I don't understand that. You know what, matter of fact, to be honest, I don't feel comfortable. I think we can call another Uber. And as my husband, you should respect.
We're going to be late.
Late.
I'll take it off, but I'm just asking for a review. You're asking me.
Don't worry about taking it off.
Unlock the door.
Unlock the door.
I'm not letting you out. I'm the one who's in control.
Now, I know you're going to stand up for me on that.
Just let us out, man. We're just talking.
Worried about being late.
Look, I'll take it off, but I want
my... Unlock the door, sir.
We're going to cancel the ride.
All right. Yes, cancel the ride.
All right. Enjoy being late.
Yeah, late is not the problem. Your head is.
And I hope that this video reaches all the Mexican, or actually in general, just all the Latinos, liberals, Democrats. I hope all of you guys see this video. I hope it goes viral, because you know what? You guys been giving me so much crap ever since the election and ever since Donald Trump won, that all you guys could tell me is, oh, look at the color of your skin. You'll never be accepted. They'll never like you. You look like India Maria. You look like da-da-da. Okay, Cristina. Okay, Cristina. That's a Mexican version of Karen. I think that you guys are so upset, and you don't even know why. Because I could say the same thing about you, honey. The Democrats don't like you guys. They only like you guys when it's time to vote. The only time that they're for the raza is because they need your vote. That's the only time. Name a different time that they did anything for you and your people. And I say your people because we're not alike. My people is the conservatives. My people is the Republicans. It doesn't matter what color, what shade, all of them. They're my people. And your people only like you when it's time for you to vote. That's it. Because for the last 4 years, before Trump came into office, what did they do for you guys? You know how many people, let's talk about the dreamers. You know how many dreamers were waiting and waiting and waiting for their status to change? And then here comes the people across the border and they just cut the line and they got free everything. Free healthcare, free rent, EBT. They got everything that you guys couldn't get. That's so crazy. So while you guys are over here talking about, oh, they don't like you guys because you don't like you because you look like India Maria. Oh my God, how embarrassing. You really think you're going to accept it by these people. Oh, how embarrassing that you voted for people that don't care about you. Because truth is, Biden had plenty of time to make your mama and your daddy legal, and he didn't. He didn't do nothing about it. Nothing. The only thing he got was your vote. Anyway, good night. And for all of you guys that keep calling me India Maria like it's an insult, thank you for the compliment because the India Maria is a legend. Put some respect on her name.